One of these 3 Pokemon collections never made it into my inventory. I bought all 3 from eBay to see which would be the best purchase for the business. 2 were processed, scanned and listed as normal, but the 3rd arrived loose in a box with the binder that was included with the sale unused and the cards in much worse condition than expected. I stopped immediately and opened a return. Of the 2 remaining collections, one was the clear winner. The original plan was simple: buy 3 separate Pokemon card collections, process each one through the business, and compare which one was actually the best purchase. I wasn't judging them only by listed value, I also wanted to compare the purchase cost, number of cards added, projected profit, processing time, and the overall quality of the inventory. Collection 1 cost me $260. It come from an eBay auction. I took a rough estimate that I could bid up to around $300 and still turn a profit. It looked like a straightforward collection with enough cards that could be suitable for the store, but the real result would depend on the condition and how much I could actually list. Once everything was opened and laid out, I checked through the cards and separated anything that wasn't suitable. There weren't any huge individual hits carrying the entire collection, but it was still a useful mix of inventory that should appeal to a range of different buyers. This collection included a fair amount of Celebrations cards, which we like to pick up because they do really well in the store. It had lots of Vs and VMAXs, which sell, but they don't sell it really quickly, but we don't mind listing them up on the site. These cards all showed up with ETB sleeves on them, which you just can't scan in because you don't get the back of the card. And they're really not the best for protection, so first step is to take them all out of the ETB sleeves, put our own clear sleeves on them. From there, every card was scanned front and back so the eventual buyer can see the exact card they're purchasing. I then ran the completed scans through CardUploader, which identified the cards and prepared the listing information. CardUploader removes a lot of the repetitive work, but I still manually check the condition, pricing and listing details before anything went live. Once the listings were completed, each card was assigned to batch 87 and moved into storage so it can be found quickly when it sells. In total, Collection 1 added 90 cards to the store with a combined listed value of $588. I use a rough estimate that around 70% of the listed value will remain after eBay fees and postage. On that basis, this collection has an estimated return of $411. After subtracting the original $260 purchase cost, the projected profit comes to around $151. That is only projected profit. The cards still have to sell and some could sit in storage for months before the full value is realised. Overall, Collection 1 was a solid result. It added usable inventory and should eventually produce a reasonable return. But it wasn't anything special. Collection 2, however, never made it anywhere near the scanner. Collection 2 was supposed to go through the exact same process, but it never made it anywhere near the scanner. When I opened the parcel, the cards had been placed loose inside the box, despite a binder being included with the collection. There was enough empty space for the cards to move around during postage, and several arrived with visible damage and corner wear. I can't say every condition issue happened during transit, but the collection wasn't in the condition I expected when it arrived. The further I looked through the box, the worse it seemed. At that point, I didn't really know what else to say. Wow. I didn't sort the cards, sleeve them, clean them, scan them, or prepare any listings. Altering the collection would only make the return more complicated. So everything was kept with the original packaging and I opened an eBay return. The seller disputed the condition and packaging concerns, so the case was escalated to eBay. eBay ultimately approved the return. The entire collection was securely packaged and sent back using the provided tracked return label. Collection 2 added 0 cards to the store and produced no listed value. It was removed from the financial comparison entirely. This is the risk with buying collections online. The purchase price might look good, but the condition and packaging can completely change whether the numbers still work. Even if I tried to keep the collection, a lot of these cards would need to be listed at lower conditions, which would reduce the value and make them harder to sell. There's also the time involved in assessing each card, adjusting listings, and dealing with potential buyer issues. At that point, forcing the collection into inventory just didn't make sense. The best business decision was to stop, protect the evidence, and try to recover the original purchase cost. Thankfully, Collection 3 gave me a much better result. This collection cost $340, making it the most expensive of the two collections that actually entered inventory. Luckily, everything had arrived in much better condition than the last one, so I could move ahead with the normal process. Once the collection was laid out, I went through every card and separated the English and the Japanese cards. They go through CardUploader much better if you separate them into their different languages. There was a broad mix of modern inventory with enough useful cards across both sides of the collection to justify processing the entire lot. There were some nice old back Japanese cards included in this collection as well, but there were no single cards valuable enough to carry the whole purchase on their own. The value came from the collection as a whole, which is generally what I'm looking for when buying inventory for the store. From there, we re-sleeved any card that needed a new sleeve, checked condition, and then scanned front and back. The scans were then run through CardUploader, which identified the card, set, and number, and prepared the listing information for the eBay store. CardUploader removes a lot of the repetitive work, but it doesn't completely automate the process. I still manually check the condition, pricing, and listing details before anything goes live. Once the listings were finished, the English cards were assigned to batch 86, while the Japanese cards were separated into batch 86 Japanese. That gives every card a physical location so it could be found quickly when an order comes through. In total, Collection 3 added 147 new cards to the store, with a combined listing value of $1,011. To estimate the eventual return, I use a rough figure of 70% of listed value. That allows for eBay fees, postage, and some discounting when the cards eventually sell. Based on that estimate, Collection 3 should return approximately $708 after those selling costs. Subtracting the original $340 purchase price leaves a projected profit of around $368. This is still only projected profit. These cards haven't all sold yet, and some could remain in storage for weeks or months until the full value is realised. Even with that limitation, Collection 3 was clearly a much stronger result than Collection 1. It added more cards, produced a higher listed value, and projected more than twice the profit. But before making the final comparison, it's important to explain what these listed value and projected profit figures actually mean. With both usable collections fully processed, the difference between them was pretty clear. Collection 1 cost me $260 and added 90 cards to the store, with a combined listed value of $588. Using my rough estimate that around 70% of the listed value remains after eBay fees, postage, and some discounting, that gives an estimated return of $411 and a projected profit of $151. Collection 3 cost slightly more at $340, but it added 147 cards to the store with a combined listed value of $1,011. Using the same calculation, the estimated return comes to $708, leaving the projected profit of approximately $368 after subtracting the purchase cost. So Collection 3 was the clear winner. It required an extra $80 up front, but produced 57 more listings and projected more than twice the profit of Collection 1. It also gave the store a broader mix of English and Japanese inventory, which should appeal to more buyers over time. Across Collections 1 and 3, I spent a total of $600 and added 237 cards to the business. Their combined listed value is $1,599. After allowing for fees, postage and discounts, the estimated return is around $1,119. Subtracting the original purchase cost leaves combined projected profit of approximately $519. This still isn't realised profit. Every card needs to sell, and some could remain in storage for weeks or months before the full return is reached. Listed value is useful for comparing collections, but it isn't cash in the bank. Collection 2 was excluded from all these totals. It added 0 cards and 0 listed value to the store. The return was approved and the collection has now been sent back using tracked postage. The refund will be completed once the return is delivered. So from these 3 collections purchased, 2 became inventory, 1 never entered the store, and collection 3 was comfortably the best business purchase. The store now has 3,550 current active listings, with the next target being 4,000 listings. The biggest lesson from this comparison is that the purchase price is only one part of the result. Condition, packaging, processing time, and the quality of the inventory can completely change whether a collection is actually worth buying.